Welcome to Focus on Abilities, a program about issues affecting the lives of people with disabilities. My name is Lex Frieden. I'll be your host for today's program. I'm professor at UT Health, and I direct the Independent Living Research Utilization Program, ILRU, at TIRR Memorial Hermann. We have a great program for you today. You're going to love our guest. We'll be right back with Focus on Abilities. Please stay tuned. Hi, you're watching Focus on Abilities on HTV, and today we have a wonderful guest for you. I want to, before I introduce the guest, I want to ask you a question, one that we'll get to before the end of today's show. What was the first hospital built in the Texas Medical Center? We'll get to it. You'll enjoy the answer to that, but now let me introduce our guest. We're joined today by Rhonda Abbott. Rhonda is the CEO of TIRR Memorial Hermann. Rhonda, welcome to Focus on Abilities.
Thank you so much for having me. What a pleasure.
Well, we're glad to have you here. People have heard of TIRR, I think, for many different reasons. It's number 2 rehab hospital in the nation, according to U.S. News, and many people remember Gabby Giffords was a patient at TIRR, and yours truly was a patient at TIRR many years ago. Rhonda, you are, and I know this because I've worked at TIRR for a long time, you're the second woman to be the CEO at TIRR. You are the second person who actually worked at TIRR before they became the CEO. What led you to this? What have you done that earned that credit?
I love that question. And I just have to point out, you are as much a celebrity as Gabby Giffords in our history, if not more so maybe. I've been very fortunate, definitely. I am a physical therapist by background and started my career with TIRR really as a student on our pediatric program. Fell in love with the ability to give kiddos back the life that they wanted to get back to and give their families hope. And then I just had opportunities on the spinal cord injury program. I started really working there, so transitioned from student to actual treating therapist and clinician there. And TIRR is an amazing place for growth, wonderful mentors, and I really owe so much of my opportunity to that disciplined use, I think, of learning from people around me. And just grew up caring for patients on spinal cord injury, and then had an opportunity to be in a director role, had an opportunity to sort of grow our rehab network so that it isn't just the building in the Texas Medical Center, but also can reach other patients throughout the community. That was really exciting to kind of be the connecting point for some of those experiences.
I want to come back and talk about that in a minute, but first I will observe that there are a lot of people who work at TIRR, wonderful clinicians, therapists, doctors, others. They've worked there for a long time, and that sort of sets a tone for the culture that you've described. But I guess I would point out that not all of them graduate to be the CEO of one of Memorial Hermann's star hospitals. I remember when you started at TIRR, and I think it was in the early 21st century, right?
That's exactly right, 2001, yeah.
So you had a reputation of being a get-her-done kind of person, and you were known to be improving efficiencies and good at keeping records and encouraging and showing others how to do that. did you find that to be kind of just a natural path to leadership?
So that's a great question. I was actually reminiscing recently with my clinical instructor who's still at TIRR, also treating patients, and she said to me, I felt like I could leave you alone with these little kiddos when you were a student, and that was unique for her. I do think it's a little bit natural. I love to learn and am driven to improve myself, and I think through doing that, enjoy lifting others up and identifying how we can mentor the next generation of clinicians and teams and impacting the culture of the experience that everybody has in our campus. It's so important to me that every team member, physician, all disciplines, and patients, and every visitor has just a wonderful experience at TIRR. So I think that motivates me, but I do think some of it was just a natural inclination to want to help and make things better.
Well, I think you're an example of a lot of people who work at TIRR who are good mentors and teachers and leaders. And I frankly think that's what brings along the next new Rhonda Abbott. And so I'm glad to be affiliated with a place that has so much history and so much great leadership. And
absolutely.
I mean, neither one of us would be there if it hadn't been
Absolutely.
for leaders who. TIRR has gone through a lot, and in the early 90s, the medical treatment scenario all changed. The environment for hospitals changed. TIRR was a private, not-for-profit, and independent hospital, and later on, after you got here, it merged. So you had a challenge in leadership at that point in time. I'd like to talk more about that, but right now I think we should take a break, and we'll be right back with more Focus on Abilities.
Throughout the COVID-19 pandemic, Metro has been there for you, getting medical center employees and other essential workers to their jobs during lockdown. We're also improving your customer experience, from more frequent cleanings to security monitors on vehicles. We've launched free Wi-Fi and installed over 3,000 new accessible bus stops, all to make your ride better. Visit ridemetro.org to learn how you can drive less and do more.
How about we try that again?
Mr. Rhodes,
Here's to keep you safe on these roads.
what did I do wrong?
2 words, cross walk.
Oh,
Whoa! But first, say hello to my little friend.
the walk signal?
The crosswalk, the signal. Look left, look right, look left. Doesn't it look good in stripes? Yeah.
Hurricanes, floods, pandemics, what's next? Are you prepared for the next Houston emergency? Are you stocked up on toilet paper? That's not what you need to worry about. What you need is to prepare a wellness go bag, especially if you have a chronic disease like diabetes or high blood pressure. These conditions can be a special health challenge if you must leave your home without essential supplies on a short notice. Learn more about how to make the perfect go bag for you at gohealthyhouston.org. That's gohealthyhouston.org.
Hello, my name is Guadalupe Hernandez. My work deals a lot with going back and revisiting these places of my childhood in Mexico and documenting them.
The influx of so many different people arriving here in Houston from around the world is very impactful on my palette as well as my canvas as an artist.
Mainly for me, just all the art that was in Houston was a big influence on me. It really got me serious about making my own.
We're back with Focus on Abilities. I'm Lex Frieden, your host, and our guest today is Rhonda Abbott from TIRR Memorial Hermann. Rhonda, before the break, I brought up the merger that made TIRR a part of Memorial Hermann system, and you were there and had to play a leadership role in the transition. What that was hard for some people to accept, because there's a certain thing about independence individually and from the standpoint of an organization, and there were a lot of adaptations people had to make. I think. How did you see that whole merger?
That's a great question. I think with any change like that, you question, what will this do to impact us, and is this going to change our mission? And the great news is that it really didn't, and I think gave us many resources and opportunities to only expand that mission. And one of the things that you just touched on that TIRR prides itself in still today is that autonomy and independence and being able to make a difference in the rehabilitation space. Mm-hmm. And I really see that with those resources, we're still able to do that. We are part of a larger health system, but we're the rehabilitation experts within that system. So Memorial Hermann embraced that concept that, well, TIRR is leading the way nationally for rehab. How can we use that with our rehab centers that are part of our acute care hospitals? How can we, build off of that strength? And that gave us something that was a new opportunity. And just having the resources and the support, the infrastructure elements that were necessary then allowed us to keep serving that mission. We were in a fragile place at the time, and it was pretty important.
I think that really characterizes it. Not only did Memorial Hermann help us, we helped them.
Right.
And since then, TIRR has expanded along with Memorial Hermann and become more integral into their programs around the region.
Absolutely.
By the same token, it's given us access to more specialists, more facilities, more support. They helped us build a new research center behind the hospital. So all these things, I think your description is right. People were fearful, they didn't know what to expect, but in the end, it's been a wonderful marriage.
It definitely has. I think about pediatrics because that was sort of an initial love for me for the campus, and there for a season of time we actually closed that pediatric unit and the inpatient side because of not having resources, not having the medical specialties that we needed, and we're able to bring that back. We actually reopened inpatient pediatrics a little over 2 years ago, and that was exciting for me. I was super passionate about bringing that back, but because we have the tools that we need now to see it through successfully. For the
why don't you just for us describe the breadth of the program? I'm not even sure I know all the programs that TIRR is providing and offering now.
Of course, I'd love to. We have, of course, 2 freestanding inpatient rehab facilities, TIRR in the Texas Medical Center, so our flagship campus, and then we have an inpatient facility that's in the West area, so Katy, and that's Memorial Hermann Rehabilitation Hospital, Katy. We have 7 TIRR outpatient locations throughout the city, plus our Katy Rehab outpatient location. We just recently in December opened that newest outpatient location for TIRR in the southeast area of town. Super exciting because there really isn't a comprehensive outpatient rehabilitation facility in that area. So we were thrilled to be able to do that. We have a wellness program called Strength Unlimited. We have TIRR Sports and Recreation. It's really expanding beyond just the competitive sport aspect, which is really important for our athletes, but also recreational opportunities, whether that's dance or art or things that we haven't yet explored with. We're finding partners and bringing people together, which is really exciting because we can do so much more across the city of Houston if we're working together on these goals than if we continue alone.
Years ago, the mainstay patients, or most of the patients, were people who, like me, had spinal cord injuries, people with brain injuries, and some people who had stroke. Now, how has that expanded from the standpoint of diagnostic
Right,
categories?
It's a great question. We really serve anyone who has an inpatient or outpatient rehabilitation need, children up through adults, as I referenced with pediatrics. And we have services for prehabilitation. So that's rehab before you actually maybe even need it, to prepare yourself to be ready for that intervention. We do that with cancer care. So frequently in oncology, we have services for limb loss patients and really amazing innovative treatments that are happening around that. We, of course, are serving patients who have neuromuscular disease or illness that includes multiple sclerosis or Parkinson's or Guillain-Barré, those types of diagnoses. And more that I'm sure I'm missing in the moment, but just a tremendous depth to our skill and capabilities. And one of the things that I value so much is that we're able to serve people in their communities. That new outpatient location is an example of that. But we also have inpatient rehab at 5 other locations that are either Memorial, Hermann, or TIRR branded, that are embedded in their acute care hospitals throughout the city, so we can reach people closer to home.
So we're able to do things in the outpatient rehab now that before they might have had to be hospitalized for.
Absolutely. There's definitely a transition in where the care is delivered, but we have the ability to provide that answer in either an inpatient setting or an outpatient setting.
And the other thing I should recall is that the length of stay in the hospital has shortened decade by decade. It used to be, when I was a patient there, one might expect to stay there 6, 8, or 12 weeks in the hospital, and now a person with an injury like mine could be there, what, 3, 4, 5 weeks?
Yeah, usually between 3 and 4 weeks, and it depends. There's certainly folks that stay longer and folks that might stay a little bit shorter, but that's the average usually.
Well, and that's because efficiencies have been improved.
Absolutely.
And technologies have been improved, and so on and so forth. Right. All right, I want to talk more about, you mentioned TIRR in the community. We'll do that, but first we'll take a break. Please stay tuned. We'll be right back.
The urban fabric of Houston is woven from the ambitions and traditions of people and ideas.
Come on.
We are a city of collaborators who build on one another's inspirations, strengths, and cultures to shape a future we all can share.
Come on.
Together, we are more than 7 million ingredients that make something that cannot be discovered, tasted, or invented anywhere else.
Come on.
A movement, a moment, a future.
Come on.
Together, we are reshaping the culinary landscape.
Come on.
Come on. Cultures combine to create a powerful, flavorful taste of things to come. Louisiana crawfish becomes the Cajun crawfish and noodles. Asian flavors meet Texas-style barbecue. Japanese tapas, Korea Mex, and Nigerian jambalaya set the table for a creative, inventive, cooperative scene.
Come on.
The power of together is creating public-private partnerships that are shaping an ecosystem of businesses in orbit around the Earth, taking us to the moon and beyond.
Come on.
Our together is rocket-fueled.
Come on.
The power of together is the power to heal.
Come on.
We are developing the world's most advanced research campus at the world's largest medical city. The greatest minds in medicine, science, academia, and commerce collide here, speeding research and breakthroughs.
Come on.
Together, we are powering the future, evolving the energy supply and science, leading the global transition to a more efficient, sustainable, low-carbon future.
Come on.
Houston welcomes you to say hello to the incredible power and infinite possibility of together. We cannot wait to make tomorrow together.
Come on.
Metro is here for you every day, providing safe, reliable travel options. We take you to celebrations and help during emergencies. We're always listening to the community, and we manage taxpayer dollars responsibly. And thanks to overwhelming voter approval, we're we're building transit for today and tomorrow so that you can drive less and do more.
You're watching Focus on Abilities on HTV. Our guest today is Rhonda Abbott. Rhonda, we've talked about the things that TIRR is doing now and the way TIRR has expanded its patient services and its locations. But we haven't really talked about TIRR's impact on the community. Obviously, every one of those patients feels TIRR's impact, but community-wide, TIRR has made it a mission to reach out and impact the community. What are we doing to make that occur?
I think that's a great question. We're definitely here to serve whatever the community needs from us. So we do that in the clinical care side so often. With COVID, we found ways to distribute vaccines, particularly to patients with disabilities, because accessing healthcare looks very different for them, at times. And
So let me interrupt you.
Yeah.
TIRR actually went to patients' homes to
We
give
mostly
them.
created a clinic opportunity that was safe and accessible, so we could do really rapid COVID vaccinations. And then we had a flu campaign actually that was out in the community, a community event where we partnered with different organizations, but including Metro even, to help patients access that experience. So we definitely have that type of outreach. It was really interesting. I have to tell this quick story. We had an individual that we serve in our post-polio clinic who had been affected by polio and then also was coming to us for a COVID vaccine, so had lived through
Wow.
these two pandemic experiences and sought care through TIRR in both of those. It was remarkable. I got to meet her and hear
Yeah.
her story a bit. But what we do in the community too, I think, is just identify who's on a common course from a mission perspective. How can we help them with their needs while also looking at the opportunities for individuals with disabilities, particularly to be included in whatever that aspect is. So there are multiple examples, but I think about some recent partnerships with the Harris County Houston Sports Authority. Never maybe recognizing specifically individuals with disabilities, athletes with disabilities. They have now made that part of every event that they do for the most part.
Very cool.
We're right there alongside them. And that, I think, is a huge impact potentially on the entire city. There's evidence that including people with disabilities in any places that we can makes everybody better. And I think that's something that sometimes is forgotten. But those are the types of partnerships and organizations that we're working with. The other piece to this is truly looking at equity, diversity, and inclusion from a healthcare perspective. How do people stay healthy in their communities? We've supported events throughout the city to establish inclusive parks so that the surfaces, whether that's terrain or the equipment, is accessible for people with disabilities so that they can live and play and enjoy with their families that type of experience. We support that through education and then also just financially trying to help them be able to add that to their parks. The list goes on and on, but we're just thankful that people want to connect with us, want to learn about those opportunities, and then we're able to make an impact in their community.
You mentioned equity, diversity, and inclusion. One complaint by people in part of the community about healthcare services today are it's so expensive. Mm-hmm. And many people don't have employer-paid insurance. They have to manage themselves or manage with Medicaid, which sometimes doesn't pay for certain services that a private health insurer might pay for. Mm-hmm. Does TIRR have a way to reach those patients?
Yeah, I think we all have a goal across not just Houston, but much larger scope than that, to make healthcare accessible in whatever way that looks. So from a cost and an actual, payment perspective, I think, one of the things we like to do is sort of that counseling element of it. Sometimes people have, a payer that maybe isn't going to cover certain things, and we might provide that feedback. We might provide different options so that it becomes affordable or, more available. And we work with all folks with all kinds of resources or very limited resources, so that we can try to say, here are the options in this menu, so to speak, so that we can get some access to that care. And we support, we're a not-for-profit organization, of course, along with Memorial Hermann, and we support a substantial amount of unfunded care for the community as well, because it's part of our mission, and we need to be doing that.
So what do the demographics look like if you look at the patient population? Is it pretty well balanced?
Yeah, for who we currently serve, I'd say, it's not necessarily well balanced. I think we definitely have areas that we recognize we need to lift up more than others. And the other thing that's just interesting, some of us in the healthcare space are still on that beginning of the learning curve. What data does exist so that we can really understand the population that we want to make an impact with?
But
and that's hard to find for some of us.
There are some services that TIRR provides that don't cost a lot of money. I mean, what is, you mentioned Strength Unlimited?
Right. Yeah,
Tell us about that.
It's this wonderful wellness program where we're able to allow patients who maybe just want to stay healthy after they've discharged from therapy, or people who maybe have never even come to any of our therapy services that want that ability to have a fitness center home. And so this Strength Unlimited offers that particular, equipment use, access to trainers, different options, again, that might meet their specific needs and fitness interests in a way that is really accessible, very affordable. So it's kind of an open gym concept, but it also can have other tracks depending on what the individual is looking for. So I think I'm a big fan of Strength Unlimited because it's there to keep people healthy at home, even when you're not using and accessing services.
So if people want to do that, what do they do? Where do they call? Where do they write?
This is my favorite question to answer, because of course people reach out in the community all the time. How do I get in? What services do you offer? And the easiest answer to that is our 1-800 number, because it's 1-800-44-REHAB. And that's the easiest way to find out about any of our services. Inpatient, outpatient, Strength Unlimited, everything is a one-stop shop there.
Okay, great. So at the beginning of the show, we asked a question, what was the first hospital in the medical center? You would have guessed TIRR.
I wanted to guess TIRR because I feel like we've been there for so long. It's such a great...
But folks who've been in Houston a long time will know that Hermann Hospital was on that property before any place else. However, there's an irony here. Hermann Hospital was not on the gift that was originally made for the Texas Medical Center. It was on the corner of the lot. So technically speaking, TIRR may have been the first hospital in the Texas Medical Center.
Excellent. I love TIRR being first, any which way. So,
Rhonda, thanks for being our guest today.
Thank you.
On Focus on Abilities, and keep up the good work.
Absolutely, my pleasure.
I want to thank everybody for watching Focus on Abilities today. This is a special program for us. First time we've been on the air since before the flood and before the COVID. So we're glad to have you all back, and I want to thank HTV for producing Focus on Abilities. We'll be back with more, so please tune in next time for more Focus on Abilities. I'm Lex Frieden. Have a great day.